Support for CFO Thought Leader comes from Brex and Anrock, one tax engine for your global sales.
Hi, this is Russ Keefe, CFO of Corelight, and you're listening to the CFO Thought Leader podcast.
This is episode 1069.
So we added the NPS, measuring customer happiness, trying to tie NPS into our upsell to see what's the correlation between the two. If we are able to get NPS, in a better shape, is upsell growing up with it? The answer is obviously yes. We would expect it to be, and we find out that we really improved our NPS when we start measuring it. You start improving. We establish a customer success department, something we didn't have. I think I mentioned the most valuable metrics for us, and also something that we can be proud of. We are a rule of 50 company. If you take our ARR growth and our EBITDA margin, we're over 50. It's kind of showing a company that is performing as an elite level company.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's show, we speak with Lior Maza, CFO of Priority Software. Agility and real-time decision-making are perhaps the primary elements of Lior Maza's career. From his earliest professional days on forward, Maza chose to immerse himself in smaller venture-backed startups instead of large enterprises, a move that exposed him to an array of responsibilities, from fundraising to crisis management, from HR to FP&A. When you're in a small team, Maza tells us, you're up doing everything, and that's where the agility mindset takes root. You'll hear about that agility mindset and much more on today's episode. We'll begin after this. Today, companies are global from day one, and as your business grows, so does your global tax liability. Enrock is the only enterprise solution built for modern business models, like SaaS, that automates sales tax compliance worldwide. For most companies, sales tax compliance is actually high risk. SaaS businesses that take a reactive approach lose on average 4.3% of revenue to unpaid tax, penalties, and interest. So while other tax solutions are stuck in the retail era, Enrock enables proactive compliance. Get full control of your tax obligations and enter new markets faster, even as new tax regulations and requirements emerge. Reduce your time spent on tax compliance to minutes per week with automated exposure tracking, tax calculations, and filing. Trusted by industry leaders like Notion and Anthropic, Enrock also integrates seamlessly with your existing tools, ensuring accurate tax monitoring 24/7. Don't let complex tax regulations slow your growth. Visit enrock.com/thoughtleader today to see how we can simplify your global tax compliance. And hello, we're speaking with Lior Maza, CFO of Priority Software. Lior, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Jack. Pleasure to be here. Real honored.
Lior, it's nice to have you with us. And let's just ask you our favorite question. Take a look back for us and try to identify some of those experiences that you had as you were coming up that you think best prepared you for this role. What would come to mind for you?
I think, Jack, that what comes to my mind is kind of a crossroads. I was at the beginning of my career, just after the internship, and I was thinking with myself, what would be the best path of going to be part of a large team in a large organization, large enterprise, or taking kind of a leader in a small organization. And I choose the later one. I was working in the beginning of my career mostly for venture-backed startups, some of them in a more mature stage, some of them very early stage. And I think taking this path really had a lot of value for me down the road, because in this role, you are all around player. You have to do everything from reporting to fundraising to pricing, cross the company. You're doing everything, and you're dealing with crises when they are coming, and they are coming. I started my career back at 1998. Bubble burst in 2020. So it really a lot of challenges you have to deal with, and it gives you a wide range of abilities, wide range of experience. And
Lior, let me ask, you were with KPMG for a number of years, so you became an auditor. Did you enjoy that? Tell us a little bit about that chapter. Is that something you enjoyed, or you were happy to get the experience, but you were also happy to enter industry, it sounds like?
You're right, completely right. I was actually waiting for the internship time to just finish and going to business and start working, inside the company and start contributing from the inside, and not as an auditor where you usually come back, coming after the year is over and reporting something that already happened. I like, getting my hands dirty and being part of the business and making the decision that influence the business eventually.
Was it always tech? Were you auditing tech companies necessarily, or
Not necessarily. I was auditing a more traditional industry companies here in Israel, and I was looking to get to tech. It was the beginning of 2020 when I finished in KPMG, and I was looking to how can I work with tech companies. It really was very appealing for me to begin with. In the first years, hearing about all those companies starting and shining within few years. So it was really, my goal was to get there.
And to clarify, this was around the year 2000 that you're going to enter the industry. Am I right about that? I just want to make sure the date's great.
Right.
Okay.
Right, exactly. .com era.
And I'm curious, if you wouldn't mind, Tel Aviv and the technology industry over the past 2 decades, how tech companies have begun to populate that city. I haven't been to Tel Aviv, but I'm curious, is there a tech corridor? Here in New York, we have, what do they call Tech Alley, or what is it? I don't know, Silicon Alley. Was there a part of the city that became, where all the technology companies were, or was it broader than that?
Yeah, I think it's broader today, but it really started in kind of downtown Tel Aviv, and you're most welcome coming and visit us here. So high tech in specific, it's kind of the most growing industry here in Israel, and also for us in priority, the most growing segment vertical that we are focused on. ERP for software companies is really simple solution but this industry is present in every place in Israel. And I think there is great connection between the US and Israel around tech. Most of the technology investors in Israel are coming from the US. I raised money from Bain Capital, from other VCs in the US, and I think the relationship are fruitful for both sides.
Lior, I just want to point out, I think you enter the CFO office within, less than a decade after leaving KPMG. Might only be 7 years. So it's quite a sprint that you have. Can I ask the types of experiences, though, over that period? And again, you were a controller, you were a director of finance. A lot of the titles are very familiar to us, but where did the real experience happen? Like, for instance, were you involved in raising money prior to becoming a CFO, or was that something that happened after?
No, I was definitely involved before I was a CFO, and I think this is part of what I said earlier about what contribute to being a financial leader in a short time. I think raising money was already part of my first position as a controller back in Vogue Solution. Company name change, but it was an early stage software company. and we raised money. I led two different fundraising for this company as a controller, and one stage we had a CFO, and I was his right hand raising money for this company. So I was already involved in this process before I was a CFO, and I think this is one of the advantages you can find working for a small company. As long as also working for a large enterprise it's different sets of advantages as well. But this is something you're doing everything because
and you mentioned that right from the start that you thought here was a way to learn more quickly in smaller companies where you'd be exposed to more challenges, let's say, more quickly. You'd also have access to a CFO, and it sounds like, just as you just described, here you were fundraising. The CFO tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Hey, we're going to go speak to some investors on Thursday. We'd like you to sit in with us. And here's what I'd like you to, the numbers I'd like you to present." I mean, is that how it went down, or how would you, what would you share?
Yeah, actually, it was I was kind of the hands-on guy. Beginning, there was no CFO, so I was, I was the leader, and then in the later stage, after we raised money, and I was the one leading this fundraising. It was from a VC here in Israel, and then we had enough money to recruit U.S. management for this company, and the CFO came along. Obviously, being the guy with the hands-on and with more experience in this company, I was, working closely with him and helping in the
Series B. Series A, then you were working with the founder, you're working with the CEO. The CEO turns to you and says,
it was already kind of a second stage Series A. It was kind of more than a seed. It was already 12 people company. There was a CEO there that was not the founder. The two founders took tech roles. But I was working closely with the CEO, and then after the fundraising, we recruited the U.S. management, and also the CEO relocated to the.
Well, again, I just want to give the timing out because again, you within 10 years, you're entering the CFO office after your KPMG auditing experience, and there's a lot of growing going on during that period that's preparing you to do that, to step into that role. And I just, in these smaller companies, you've worn many different hats. Along the way, you might have thought, wait a minute, we need to begin hiring here because, there's only so much I can be the controller. I can raise money. You're probably doing the HR function in some way.
Yeah, it was a bit chaotic, I can say. As you said, I was also the HR. I was the operation guy, phones, cars for the employees, payrolls, and fundraising, pricing, customer contracts, and you're doing everything. You're just shooting and giving the ball and running to defense at the same time.
Lior, but would you do anything differently? Is there a piece of experience that you have today that you wish you had gotten sooner? Maybe is there something you would have done differently?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, everything has its pros and cons, and working for a smaller organization, I did felt later in the career that I'm missing kind of the procedures for large organization. Later in my career, I was the CFO of a company of 3,000 people. It's different. It's a different scale. It's a different organization, and it runs differently. And I had to learn it. It took me time. It's not like being a CFO of a 100 people company, which was my first CFO role. When I was the CFO of Taldor, this is the 3,000 people company. It's a whole different story, and I had to learn more of how you run a large scale business. It's not like
they're managed differently. They have more processes. You can't be as much the decision maker, perhaps, because certain parts you have to leave up to the managers or the line managers. How am I doing? Am I close to what you're?
Yeah, exactly. More politics. You have to maneuver between different forces in the organization. It's a 3,000 people company, so there's a lot of forces. Still, CFO is always a decision maker, and even if it's 3,000 employee company or 100 employee company, we are always, in a decision-making position, but it's really different. It runs differently and it's a different scale. And I think procedures may be the biggest difference. The company has to have very strict procedure because it's not like you can tell the guy in the hall, just do that or this. You have people all around the world and all around the country and all around the world, and you have to have written procedures that people know what the organization is.
You got during your on your way up, you got exposed to the hiring though. Again, I was trying to illustrate how you wore so many hats, and along the way, HR was really part of your world. And that means you were involved in hiring and trying to find people and bring them in. So you saw that firsthand where people in larger organizations, they have established recruiting channels. But here you are doing sort of the outreach to find the right people. And I don't think that's changed an awful lot for a lot of different size companies. We discover finance leaders are very focused on that. Can you give us some sense of how your approaches to talent and your mindset to people and talent has evolved as you have grown into, a more seasoned CFO?
I think, in tech companies, especially in tech companies, probably, I haven't worked in many other industries, but, human resource is the most important resource. This is what we are all about. The company is some of its HR resources and the talent you recruit, and this is the most important thing in the company. And I never think we should be cheap on the employee welfare or employee experience. And also here in Priority, we invest a lot in it, and people do feel that, and eventually you want the employee to be satisfied with their position and their company they are working for, and have the right condition or everything around it to be happy with their place of work, because replacing somebody is the most expensive expense that you can have. It's not just finding and paying the recruitment fees. It's also training the guy, and also the mistakes they're probably going to do at the beginning because they're new to the position. So I think that employee churn is an issue that we are all, as a management here in Priority, very focused on. And this is something we really monitor.
Along the way, I'm not surprised that's your mindset on people. That's what we perhaps expected. What about technology investment? And has that evolved over time? And again, we know that the technology has gotten so much more sophisticated, and there's so much more data now available to study and to cultivate. But I'm thinking you have this 20-year span of knowledge now. And you think about what was your mindset back in 2005 when perhaps you were a controller? Was it different from where it is today when it comes to investing in these technologies that are going to allow you to track things so closely across the organization?
Yeah, I think that experience did change my, the way I look at things. And as time goes by, you more evaluate how much the company needs to invest in technology. And today it's so fast. And looking today what the DeepSeek is doing to the markets, so you understand how technology is affecting our day to day, and it's changing so rapidly. We have to be on, live and invest as much as we can in technology. Yet, we are a private equity backed company. Our sponsors need to see the EBITDA growing as they expect, double digit growth. And there's always the tense between the investment that we have to do in technology, and Priority is investing around 20% of its revenue back into R&D and product. And this is kind of the high figures you can find in comparable companies in the private equity that are holding us. So we are really in the high range of the investment in R&D. So it has to be very, very, very high in order to keep the product leadership, and in order to keep the product to be wide enough and deep enough to give the right solution for your customer. On the other end, we are still need to make the EBITDA growth.
Has it always been for you? Has it been privately backed companies have you entered the public world along the way during your career?
No, so actually, I took a director of finance position for a company called the Power Design System on a Chip company, was acquired later by Microsemi. So this was a public company traded on the NASDAQ. And then the first CFO position I took was for a company called Supercom, Vuance. We changed the name there. So also it was traded on the NASDAQ and on Euronext in parallel. And also Toldor is a company, Israeli company, traded company in the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. So I was working also for public company, and I really rather working for a private company.
You prefer a private company?
Definitely.
Yeah. And it allows you a little more latitude as to how to make your investments, or what is your mindset?
Yeah, you touch exactly the point. If you want to meet your long-term goals, you have to make long-term investments, and you have to look, 5 years or 4 years ahead. And this is the healthiest way for the way I see it, for a company to grow, rather than meeting your quarterly targets, your revenue, and your profit per share targets that you have and you're committed for. And if something doesn't go well, you have to cut expenses and not necessarily this serve your long-term targets. So I definitely think the healthier way for a company to grow is in the private market.
Well, we want to ask you about Priority Software then, a company you've been with for 5 years now. So you've seen some growth at Priority, no doubt, during your tenure there. But let's just begin by asking you, tell us about Priority Software. What type of company is this, and what is it about today? What are its offerings?
So Priority is mainly a cloud ERP company. It's a well-established company, established, almost 4 decades ago, 1986. Yet we are a very innovative company. As I said, we started as a kind of a local champion, you can say, in the Israeli market. We serve today over 15,000 customers around the globe, 17 countries. We have direct presence in Israel, in the US, and in Belgium. In parallel, we have a global network of over 100 business partners, allowing us to serve customers around the globe. We are focused on empowering organizations to manage their business smarter, easier, and more agility. And we our strategy is basically offering a kind of as a service, meaning SaaS. We are in transition, moving from a traditional licensing model to SaaS model. And I will speak about it more a bit later. This is huge change the company is going through. We offer our product also as a platform, deep solution. We want the customer to have solution basically to everything he needs, from a small business needs to a very large scale business needs. And basically we want to be there for the customer throughout many years, throughout all his journey. And this is why we offer a very deep solution. And also as a portfolio, we offer a wide range of solution in order to enhance our portfolio. We also doing a lot of M&A. Since 2021, we acquired 7 different companies, 7 different transactions, some of them companies, some of them businesses. And this obviously to get a wider range of solution. And today, except for cloud ERP, we have solution for a specific verticals. Hospitality is one of them, kind of a PMS solution that we have for hotels, large market share in Israel. And we also have customers outside of Israel. In retail, we offer end-to-end solution from the point of sale. It could be a traditional point of sale. It could be the point of sale on your mobile. It could be on your own QPOS kind of tablet point of sale. In education, we offer also, this solution is only local here in Israel. We also have a vertical solution. And also for manufacturing, and specifically for district manufacturing, we have an end-to-end solution with WMS software as well. So basically, we grew up as a cloud ERP company. We grew up as a traditional and moved to be a cloud ERP company. And today we have a vertical specific solution on top of the ERP platform that we offer. And the company grew rapidly, as I said, in the past few years. Also organically, we are growing over double digit at least every year organically, also taking into account this challenging geopolitical situation we had in Israel for the past year. Despite of that, we were able to grow double digit this year as well, both in EBITDA and in revenues, and also by merger and acquisition we are doing. The move to the cloud that we are doing right now is a really tremendous change that the company is going through from a product-centric company to a service-centric company. And I think this transition is also, at the end of the day, giving a lot of value to the customer, but is changing the face of the company. You know, the type of employees you are recruiting, the focus of the employees is different.
The acquisitions, were those of SaaS companies or?
SaaS, we are focused only on SaaS companies, highly recurring, highly profitable, that will give us also the right to win outside of Israel. And this is what we are looking for. And, all the acquisitions that we've made were SaaS companies.
Outside of Israel, can you give us a sense of that geographic footprint?
Yeah, so a lot of outside of Israel, a lot of our customers are product-centric companies from manufacturing. A lot of them you can find. We were ranked also by IDC MarketSpace, also by Gartner, TC, and a lot of independent consultant as one of the top 10 ERP cloud solutions. So this gives us the right to win in those industries. So I said manufacturing is one specific vertical we're very strong in. We're starting now with retail in the US. We already have our first customer, and we are now partnering with some very strong partner in the US and looking to expand our presence in the retail market, offering an end-to-end solution, real-time ERP solution attached to the point of sale, attached to the website, basically allow you kind of a full stack solution in one stack. And this is basically our advantage there. So, but we also have customers outside of Israel in many other verticals. One of the strongest offering of Priority is being very, very flexible and agile system, allowing the customer to adjust the system even by himself. I was a customer of Priority before I joined Priority in the previous company I worked for, and we moved from SAP R3 to Priority because of eventually the total cost of ownership of the product. Eventually, you don't have to have 20 people supporting you. You can easily adjust the system to your needs. And this, I think, is our right to win outside of Israel.
And again, so give us a sense of the typical size customer that Priority has. If we were to look at the customer pie, you mentioned SAP, that's a large enterprise player that usually services large accounts. So is Priority servicing large accounts?
As well. This is not exactly the area where, find most of our customers, but we are serving customers from 5 users up to 6,000 users. So,
but is the majority of the portfolio small to medium sized customers?
Yeah, majority would be between 30 to 150 kind of number of users you would find. This is kind of the majority of the customers. But as I said, we serve large enterprise here in Israel. I was one of the large enterprise we served. And I was the CFO of one of those organizations, but many others with largest dental treatment organization in Israel with over 6,000 users is one of our customers. Second largest is also our customer. So construction, very large enterprise in construction. Most of the construction companies here in Israel use Priority. So we really are able to give solution from very small enterprise to very large enterprise. But as I said, the sweet spot is, I would say, between 30 to 200, kind of, this is the range.
30, I'm sorry. Okay.
30 users, not employees.
Users, yeah. Gotcha.
1 to 10, kind of.
I want to just touch on capital structure quickly with you. You had a significant investment last year from Blackstone. Can you fill us in? That's clearly a milestone, but can you give us maybe a short history of the company's capital structure?
Yeah, so the company was privately held up until 2014, and then it was acquired by a local private equity named Fortissimo here in Israel. And actually, my first task when I joined Priority back in 2019 is selling the company to the next private equity. And, with COVID starting shortly after I joined in November, so probably 3 to 4 months later, COVID started. So I had some time to kind of get the company ready for the process. We started the process in May 2020 and finished it by September. The company was acquired by TA, also US based private equity. And we had the pleasure working jointly with TA and Fortissimo for about 4 years, a bit shy than 4 years. And then we went to the next round. We had a lot of interest before the war started, before October of 2023. We had a lot of interest. Some of them want to kind of preemptive rights for this transaction. And then there was kind of a few months that people took a step back, and Blackstone came with the right offer, and I think made the right bet, took a majority stake in Priority. And the other players, Fortissimo and TA, still are shareholders in the company, but the majority is held by Blackstone, as you mentioned.
And that just happened last year, or 2024.
Right,
Yeah.
July. Yeah, July of 2024.
So over the last 5 years, this function has grown in certain ways. You've added certain amounts of talent. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've grown the finance function and what were your priorities?
Yeah, definitely. So when I joined Priority, the finance team was really lean. Also today we are lean, but it was extremely lean. In the company, we grew up from 150 employees when I joined in 2019 to 560 employees we have today. So obviously we grew up rapidly, and the finance team has had to grow with the company. But the first steps I took when I joined the company is preparing it for the next step, understanding that the private equity that's going to invest is going to be a probably US based or European based private equity, large scale, and the level of reporting, the level of information we had wasn't the right level that we needed. Also FP&A. We just started a transition to be a SaaS company, and we had to speak the language, to speak the right language. A traditional licenses company doesn't speak ARR, churn, and net retention and gross retention, and basically we had to change the language. And this is a culture change that I had to lead here in the company. Speak ARR. I don't want to hear about one-time revenue. Tell me what's the ARR and how it's going to grow. And this is a real change. I had to kind of educate the people of the language I want to speak, and this process really accelerated after the investment of TA, that are totally speaking this language, and they pushed us even faster in this path. But so the first step was preparing the team, speaking the languages, get the right systems in order to allow visibility into the data of the organization, real-time data that was not available when I joined. So it's getting a strong FP&A team, getting a strong systems to allow us to give the results on a timely manner and an accurate manner and a consolidated business basis on US GAAP reporting. Basically speak the world language and not the local language.
You mentioned real-time data, but what metric have you perhaps raised the profile of to help the organization perform better?
So I think that maybe the first were the very basic SaaS metrics that we all know, right? The NRR, first and most important, ARR. This is kind of people tell me I'm going to bed with ARR, but this is almost accurate. But this is kind of always pushing people. If you want to give discount in the one-time revenue. I don't want to hear discounts on ARR. This is kind of untouchable. So this was the first thing, was getting the organization to speak the SaaS language, NRR, GRR, churn, downsell, upsell. speaking the right language, understand what important and what we can, if we need to negotiate, what we can negotiate and what we don't want to negotiate. So I think this was the first. And then also we added the NPS, measuring customer happiness, trying to tie NPS into our upsell to see what's the correlation between the two. If we are able to get NPS, in a better shape, is upsell growing up with it? And the answer is obviously yes, we would expect it to be. And we find out that, we really improved our NPS. When we start measuring it, you start improving. We establish a customer success department, something we didn't have, as part of the move from a perpetual licenses company into a SaaS company. So we now it's a team of almost 10 people that in customer success. So we really are pushing to focus on data and data-driven decisions. So I think I mentioned the most valuable metrics for us, and also something that we can be proud of. We are a rule of 50 company. If you take our ARR growth and our EBITDA margin, we're over 50. It kind of showing a company that is performing as an elite level company, and this is something we're proud of.
We want to touch on AI with you, and we're wondering if you can provide some insight into the company's strategy for adopting and integrating AI technologies into its operations. What would you tell us?
So AI, as you can imagine, is something we speak about, I think, in every meeting. I think if there's a meeting that somebody didn't say AI, we have to say AI at the end before we're leaving the room. But we're really focused on that. There's a lot of people here in Priority that are shifting their position and focusing more and more on AI. And maybe briefly I'll start with the product, where we are adopting AI capabilities into the product. So the first thing that is already available in the next version, in next release, is Chat Your ERP. Instead of going into the menu and I want to see a report of this customer, how much revenue we generate in this period, I can just chat my ERP and tell them what's the revenue of customer name X for the period Y. And I'll get it. I don't need to go into the menu and look for what's the menu, where can I find it? I don't need to do that anymore. So this is something that is already we're doing for a few months. Smart automation for processes, all kind of processes that are repeating over and over again. We are automating those processes. The system will offer you to automate this process, making your people more effective and the processes more efficient. There is natural language automation. This is not in the next version. This is version 25.2.1 that will be later in 25. This is basically you can instead of coding, you can speak to your ERP. Priority is known for being very flexible and very easily coded. So instead of coding, you can even speak naturally in natural language with the ERP, and you can already get business rules into the system with just instructions. So there's a lot of going on, and this is just the kind of the highlight. There's a lot of going on in the product in terms of AI and how we can make our customer lives easier and more efficient. In terms of the company...
No, I was going to ask just in terms of your finance function and your ability to forecast. Are you envisioning how AI will someday play a role in your forecasting capabilities?
So actually, it's a great question because there's a great answer. Already taking it back to the ERP, Priority ERP would be able to kind of machine learn a kind of analytics and forecast your level of inventory, level of Forex hedging you need to do, cash flow forecasting. So all of that could be done through your ERP. We are using today AI in finance also for account payable automation, for analytics, for finding anomalies in reports when we are looking for mistakes and things like that. Sorry, but I think that with time it will be better and better, and it still serves us though as a co-pilot. It's not taking the driver's seat. It still allows you to look into the data and gives you things that eventually you have to be in the driver's seat and let the system know what do you need. But we are using AI also in finance, but not only, also in marketing, creating content, also in service. It's doing tremendous job. We discovered that almost 40% of the tickets we open are tickets that created because lack of knowledge of the users. So basically, we are creating a chatbot that will give the customer the full understanding of how he should treat the system, saving 40% of the tickets that open to a rep at the end of the day will make us a lot more efficient, obviously.
Well, thank you.
So there's a lot there.
That's a nice overview for us. So thank you for that. We are up to what we like to refer to as our finance strategic moment. And again, what we're looking for is really a moment of insight that you've experienced along the way in your career that you'd like to share with us as a special moment of insight. What comes to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
So I'll take you back about 20 years ago, or actually more, 25 years ago. Wow, I'm old. I'm going to take you back 25 years ago, back to the bubble burst in 2020. I was in 2000. I was very young controller, my first position after KPMG, and we were developing a product, kind of a social network product that you can chat with, kind of online chatting social network product. And like many other companies that time, the business model wasn't clear. We were not sure who's going to pay, how much is going to pay, why is going to pay. We just raised money and we were recruiting like crazy. And then few months later, the bubble burst and the money was really, really hard to get. And we understand that with this business model, we are not gonna get far. It was they already released the CFO at that time. I was in the leading position, had to worry about payrolls. It wasn't clear that we can pay payrolls in the next month. So it was already very tight with cash. We had to release many people. And during this process, we had to change the business model. And it was really a hard change. Everybody were in love with the first idea, with that we're going to be a very nice, geeky kind of instant messaging system. And we had to understand how eventually we're going to get money. And we shift the product. We had a lot of discussion, and we shift the product into kind of a market survey product. We were able to get Fortune 500 companies as our customer within relatively very short period. And after that, raise money from Bain Capital. That's for me what I took from this process. That was very, very in a very early stage of my career is that change is part of leading a company. And this is something that really is with me up until today, understanding that change is part of leading the company, understanding that change is part of our life as leaders. And we have to embrace change and basically take change as part of our day-to-day. Change is constant, and this is what I learned. You have to be flexible and agile enough and adopt growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, and know how to change, because this change basically saved the company. Without it, we were like we had lots of sister companies that were founded by the same venture capital. All of them are basically bankrupt, and I was kind of going from one to the other, buying their IT equipment because I took it for 20 cents on a dollar, and this way I was able to build a very nice server farm without any money, with very small amount of investment. And we brought the company into a situation that it really started making money. And eventually we were able to get the next fundraising, which was really rare at this time, 2021, 2022, 2001, 2002.
It sounds like you sensed there was some resistance to change at the time. There was some doubt that this would work out the way it did. And so that's when you talk about you have to welcome change, you have to be understand how powerful it is. How am I doing? Am I close? I mean, it wasn't black and white back then. It wasn't so clear.
Definitely, I think that resistance is a part of every change. You should expect it and welcome the resistance. I know I'm trying not to be angry of the resistance, because it makes the decision of the change better. They challenge you. And you change eventually the strategy a bit, and you're more focused, and you're able to get more accurate decision making at that point, because the change, you're not fixed mindset. You're hearing people. You have to answer their concerns, and it's natural that people resist the change. I think that a change without resistance is not necessarily a change, right? You always get resistance for that.
Have you heard about Brex? It's the world's smartest corporate card. Finance leaders love it because it's got powerful controls and rewards that help them make every dollar count. Here's why Brex cards are so smart. You can embed your expense policy inside the card. This lets you control employee spending before it even happens. Brex cards also automate manual expense, tasks like receipts, memos, and reviews. So you're free to focus on optimizing your company finances. Over 25,000 companies take every dollar further with Brex. Join them at brex.com/grow. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. We're going to move to what we refer to as the mentoring round. And we want you to think back to the first time you were appointed a CFO, that first 60 days into the role. If you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice. At that time, you had observed CFOs up close, but you were new to the role still. And there must have been something that you would go back in time now and just tell yourself. What would that piece of advice be?
So I actually tied those two questions into one, and really kind of, the advice I would give myself is, embrace the change that I mentioned earlier, but I can also think about this, what I was thinking of speaking here, but we can also tweak it a bit and doing it a bit different, because we spoke.
Okay. So that's your advice to your new CFOs. Embrace change because it's coming your way, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah. And what was, what I was thinking about saying here, it's like, fall in love with the change. Just embrace it, lead it, don't fear of it, adopt, because, when you're in a growth mindset, you're really welcome to change. And I think that I really recommend taking those changes step by step, and not doing too radical change unless it's mandatory, unless it's critical to save the business, which this is what we had back in 2000 when in the bubble burst, because it was life or death for the company. But in organization like ours, in priority, and thinking about the company's change from a product-centric company to service-centric company, to customer-centric company, from perpetual licenses to SaaS, looking on this transition, we are doing this transition gradually. It's really hard for the market. It's hard for the customers. It's hard for the employees. We are taking it step by step. We are doing this change, but people get used to it very slowly. And I think this way, the change is accepted better in the organization. And I think this allows us to make eventually radical changes, but over a long period of time, rather than doing it in a short period of time.
Lior, we always like to ask our guests to reflect a little on the personal side for us. You've been there a while, but I imagine, is there something your colleagues might not know about you, something from your past interest that you have, something that a pursuit of something that intrigued you, anything?
Yeah, I'll share a secret. Actually, in this position I just mentioned, back in 2000, I really experienced stress-related health issues. I was starting, a young guy, but it was really stressful, not being able to pay, to know if I can pay the next payroll, not having enough money to run the company, being in a decision-making position that all the responsibility is on your shoulder. And I really adopted the habit. And people think today I'm the most calm person, but it took me a while. It was a change that I've made step by step, but it was a change that I've made. And I'm taking meditation breakout throughout the day if I need one. I'm opening the day with sports every day. I'm not missing a day there unless I'm sick or something. But this really allows me to control the stress levels because, in our position, stress is really an issue we have to deal with. And this is something people always believe I'm the most calm person. I wasn't born like that. It's a lot of work that I've been doing.
We have a lot. There's been quite a few finance leaders who shared that over the last years or even since COVID, that meditation has become part of their day routine, which is interesting. It wasn't mentioned earlier prior to 2020, but once COVID arrived, I think a lot of people started reassessing how to better manage and keep themselves healthy. Interesting share for us. Thank you. I'm wondering if there's a book or something that's influenced your thinking along the way, whether it's a book or a resource. What informs you? Anything?
Yeah, I think we already mentioned how change is important, and I think it's not only for the company, also for our personal life, also for the career. In order to get a fruitful career and then execute on the targets you put yourself. And I think the book I would like to recommend under this kind of theme would be The Spirit of Kaizen by Robert Muir. And I think there it's really speaking about how to make a change. It could be in your life, it could be in a company you're leading, it could be in your personal life. Habits that you have that you want to get rid of. And he speaks a lot about, the organization want to do radical changes, but immediately. And how to do it gradually would give a lot better results and would be accepted in a much better way. And I think this is what I read this book a long time ago. And I really adopted the principles there, to the business, to my life. And this is how I'm getting to do things. I think it's the way to get changes done in the most efficient way for me.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Thank you. We haven't had it before as far as I can recall. So thank you. We always like getting new old titles, we should say. So how about looking forward for us over the coming 12 months? What would your priorities be? This is our final question. I'll let you know that. But what are your priorities as CFO of Priority Software for the coming 12 months?
Looking on my priorities as a CFO in a private equity firm, I think that the way I'm looking at the position, before it's a CFO, it's a Chief Value Creation Officer. Yeah. And my first priority is create value for the shareholders. Blackstone being our major stakeholder right now, invested in a company in a very kind of high risk geopolitical situation, showing lots of trust in the company and in the local economy, as we are still the majority of the revenue coming from the local market. And I think my first priority is help them to earn money and create value for the shareholder. And this is kind of the title for everything I do. Everything is basically a derivative of this title for me. And this could be leading M&A, which create value for the shareholders, the right M&A, focus on the right companies that generate value for Priority, focus on the transition to cloud and how to eventually get larger market share of our customers, kind of wallet share of the customer, offering a top of the market product, and then pushing R&D in order to stay in the top of the market product solution, the digital transformation and AI. Everything is a mean to an end for me to create value for the shareholders, for Blackstone. And I think eventually this investment, like the previous shareholder, will be a very successful investment for them. On top of that, there is the regular day-to-day of the CFO and mitigating risks. Looking on AI, it's not only an opportunity for us, it's also can be a risk for us, and we have to mitigate the risks there. Cybersecurity risk, which obviously always on the table for SaaS companies like us. And the ESG compliance, all kind of, you can call it more of a boring CFO stuff, but this is our day-to-day. And eventually, everything is with the large priority of creating value.
Lior Maza, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Hello, everyone. Jack here. Hope you've been enjoying our recent episodes of CFO Thought Leader. Please know that I don't take for granted this opportunity to serve you. Your time is valuable, and of course, so is the time of our CFO guests. I'll admit to you on certain weeks, I will pinch myself and say, hey, I get to do this for a living. I speak to all these impressive leaders. Undoubtedly, there are more aggressive interviewers out there, some who leave no stone unturned. But our swim lane is for finance leaders only. And those finance leaders have a unique style of leadership, one that is rooted in the burden of trust. In light of this, finance leaders must take great care not to forfeit this trust as they step into the role of being a more expressive leader. And that is what CFO Thought Leader is really about. That's why I try to remind myself week in, week out, how fortunate I am. Still, I need your help. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Email me your comments at jack@cfothoughtleader.com. And please visit cfothoughtleader.com. You'll find a listener survey right on the nav bar. As always, thank you for listening.